Hey guys.
What's up? Logan and Wendell here with another episode of The Tech.
That was a pretty weak intro, but I think we'll go with it because we can't keep up with the momentum of the ridiculous intros. Everyone expects a better intro each week, but it's just not going to happen.
Well, we had an amazing intro, but then the laptop blue screened, and so this is all you get.
Yeah, this is actually take two, and we're going to go through this pretty quickly, have a lot of fun. We've got some interviews. Actually, I forgot to tell you, Wendell, I interviewed Josh at CES, so we're going to put that in toward the middle end of the show as well. But first off, let's go ahead and start talking about Google, because they recently purchased Nest. Now, Nest is a home automation company. They make that thermostat. It's like it learns exactly what time of day you like it to be, what temperature. It's it's kind of an interesting thing. Instead of having to program it, it senses what you like and then programs itself essentially. But anyway, Google bought that company, and they're getting into home automation, and they've been buying robotics companies, and they've been buying pretty much any sort of company that helps you control your own life. Is that fair to say?
Yes, no, that's totally fair to say. And the Nest is different than a lot of other, let's call it sort of hackney home automation stuff that you don't really see, because it's in Lowe's and Home Depot, and it has a sort of national presence.
Yeah, it's not like an Arduino that you built yourself and put together with a Raspberry Pi, and then when you cough, your garage door opens. It's not like that. Now, there's some interesting questions that have been raised because of this. Since Google has been buying all these things, they're able to harvest tons of data. Now, Nest, in their terms of service, said that they weren't going to really harvest any data and sell it. They were harvesting data only to use that data to improve their current products. Now that Google has their hands on it, Google has a history of harvesting data and using it, to better market things to you, because that's really Google's job. Google's position is not, to be an internet company. Google's position in the world is to be everywhere. Google doesn't need to have a store that you go into. Google is just part of everything you do. And a lot of people are worried about this being in your home and harvesting data in your home. Is that going to be like something too far? I think they should couple this with like a Connect and just put those everywhere and know exactly what you're wearing, what you're saying at all times, during the day, so that way they can really make that marketing money.
Google Voice always on edition.
Yeah, well, aren't some cell phones already always on? Pretty much where we're going.
Well, the Moto X I think is always on. A lot of people are looking at this because it was a $3.2 billion sale. Okay, $3.2 billion is an insane amount of money to buy for a thermostat automation company.
Really?
It's crazy. Why would you do that? And so some people are looking at this and saying, well, Google really wants the data. They can monetize on the marketing data. And that's true. They probably can. But I think that this purchase was more about the engineering for home automation first. And second, they've got some top talent at that company that came from Apple and some other companies. And I think rather than try to recruit and hire those people, Google really wants to add that talent to their portfolio. And so I think this acquisition was also about acquiring engineering and human resource talent as much as it was about technology and trends.
Yeah, that's true. And what they're going to be able to do with that, I think, is just put one more brick into the construction of their computer, as it were. So eventually, I'd say in a few years, we'll have, the home automated computer. Earl Grey, hot, and then you'll go in, your water is steeping and ready to go. That's what I think is going to happen with all this. I don't know.
I would really like to have that. I've been trying to build that for years, and with varying degrees of success.
But didn't you have a coffee maker for a while that you could activate by just saying, make me a coffee or something?
Yes, and I could voice control, turn the lights on and off, and it's really not all that complicated. When I would get home, my phone would hop on the Wi-Fi, and then there would be an ARP request on the network, and then things would happen. It's not really a big deal to do that.
But now they're going to be able to harvest all that data. Anyway,
yes.
Let's move on. Have you seen the time?
Oh no, it's rant 30 and the clock is broken.
It's going to be broken for a while. It's going to be rant 30 for quite a while. Right now we're going to talk about net neutrality. Everyone's freaking out and saying that net neutrality is dead. Dead! A circuit court in D.C. has destroyed it. This has all happened because Verizon sued the FCC saying, listen, we can do whatever we want with the bandwidth, and you can't stop us. If we want to throttle certain websites because we don't like Netflix or whatever, we can throttle them, and you can't stop us. But the FCC was like, hey, you can't do that. You can't discriminate against, one bandwidth versus another. You have to give equal rights to all bandwidth. So Verizon went to court, and a district judge in D.C. looked at this case and said, in fact, the FCC does not have the right to tell Verizon what to do with their bandwidth. So this was really not exactly the judge siding with Verizon. It wasn't exactly that. It was more him telling the FCC they couldn't tell Verizon what to do. Now, Wendell, there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there, and there's a lot of nonsense floating around out there. And I think the first thing we need to do is break it down, because, I mean, this is not Armageddon, but it could become Armageddon. So
yes,
we're going to come in with the voice of reason. I'll let you go ahead with that, and then I'm going to state some hypotheticals, and then maybe we'll call to action. Go ahead.
It really, I mean, okay, so we went to look at this so we could distill it down for you guys, and it turns out it's actually really complicated. This is actually, you can't really distill this down into a 5-minute news segment and have it make sense, and have it be exactly fair and exactly right. So on the one hand, you know, is it not the situation that we have companies that are trying to manipulate the system and take control and sort of marry the media and distribution? Oh yeah, no, totally it is that. Is it not the case that the judge said some really dumb things? No, the judge said some really dumb things. Well, you know, that's all true too. But the context of this is that the judge is basically saying that the FCC didn't follow their own rules for classification. And there are some specific legal terms for the type of thing that the FCC is trying to do. And one of them is called common carrier status. So in order for the FCC to impose the sort of rules that they were trying to impose, the FCC must be classified as a common carrier. Now, when we're talking about long distance, do what?
You mean the FCC must classify Verizon as a common carrier? You said the FCC had to be classified as a common carrier.
Oh no, the FCC has to classify Verizon as a common carrier, or all ISPs, not just Verizon.
Yeah.
But right now they're classified as an information. Like an information entity or an information carrier, which is not untrue. I mean, Verizon does have their own information services as well as their own ISP services. So like their IP video services that run on like their DVR, that could be considered an information service, or it could be considered a cable service. They also have telephone service that runs over cable, or you know, their fiber optic offerings and things like that. And so the rules, I mean, if you really want to get into it, the FCC in their original charter in like the 1920s, I think it was the 1920s, are about broadcast medium and communication, and it was sort of revised a little bit in the 96 Telecommunications Act, and how it applies to cable televisions and the type of material that you can broadcast. And so the FCC was created because basically Congress couldn't keep up, and they needed an entity that was a federal entity that could control this, that wasn't necessarily law, but had some teeth like laws to keep this sort of new radio and television thing in check. And so it doesn't always translate 100%. And the context of this too is that, you know, over the last 10 or 20 years, we've had thousands of ISPs consolidate into like 9 ISPs.
Almost 8 soon, but yeah.
Yeah, and so in the 96 Telecommunications Act that we're always mentioning, ISPs were classified as these sort of information services. They weren't really classified as common carriers. But now there's so few of them, and they do so much, that for the type of IP services where it's like, oh, they could block traffic for Netflix, that specific type of service really should be classified as a common carrier thing. It's not, and the judge actually, not only did he give the FCC a window to reclassify them, but it actually sort of grants or affirms a lot more power to the FCC as long as they're following the specific rules that are set out in various changes to the law and mandates and basically memorandums of understanding and things like that have to do with the FCC. So this court case was actually really complicated. It is a victory for Verizon. It is not nationwide. It is just the District of Columbia, the Federal District of Columbia. So it's not the law of the land. It can be appealed. Now is the time to grab your torches and pitchforks, because these AT&T is already doing stuff that is hideously evil, and Verizon is not far behind. So we as citizens really need to grab our torches and pitchforks and write letters and, you know, let people know that not only do we know what's going on, we know what their end goals are, and we're not going to let them play games with the network. But right now, they can play games with the network, and that's sort of bad.
So right now, I want to take just a second and give everybody out there an idea of what could happen if the ISPs, Verizon, AT&T, everybody, if they all get their way. What will the world be like? Because right now, it can kind of go in either way, and a lot of it's going to be depending on how much noise we make, because we right now have a chance to influence the FCC. And Tom Wheeler said he doesn't know if he's going to appeal or not. He likes the idea of letting the market take care of itself. And even the judge said, in his ruling that, you know what, it's okay if Verizon, censors the internet or, throttles a certain service, because there's so many options that the consumer has that he can just, disconnect with Verizon and go off to some other service. So that, I really don't think this guy understands the world, because in some places it's illegal for, any more than one carrier to be in a certain area. And that's
clearly because he said that.
What's that?
Clearly because he said that.
Yeah.
He's never actually had to deal with an ISP. I think this was actually a panel of judges, maybe. And because they've never really had to deal with an ISP, and because they don't really know what's going on, they sort of see that as a viable option. He's talking about it like as if it's CompuServe or AOL, where it's like, well, CompuServe has message boards and AOL has message boards, and CompuServe's message boards are not any better than AOL. But there's only one YouTube, and there's only one, whatever. But these cable companies have conglomerated to the point that they own infrastructure that is paid for by federal dollars. And if your ISP is telling you that they paid for their own infrastructure, that is horsepucky. That is not true at all. It is complete. Not only is it a lie, it is such a lie that it really raises my blood pressure a few points, because as citizens, as taxpayers, we have paid 90% of their infrastructure costs over the last 20 years. Or if you really want to be specific about it, we've paid the the communications companies to upgrade their networks to a pure end-to-end fiber optic network, and they haven't delivered. So they owe us. They owe us a lot, and we have paid for that. And they're like, oh, we can't do this. We would have to upgrade the infrastructure. We can't afford it. And it's like, it's already been subsidized. There's nothing to afford. They've just mismanaged the money.
Now, here's what they really want to do. I'm going to try to say this as succinctly as possible. And AT&T is already doing this. This is really sneaky. You know how they're all introducing these data caps, and if you have mobile, you have data caps, and if you live in a certain area, you have data caps, and if you're in Australia or Canada or some other country that has really sucky ISPs, you probably have data caps. Well, here's what AT&T is doing. They are charging different services like YouTube, Netflix, and that sort of thing. They are charging them to not count against the data caps. So you can watch, say you have like a 50 gigabyte per month data cap. You can watch as much Netflix as you want, as long as Netflix is paying the bill for that, and then it'll not count against your data cap. And they're they're doing this already, and they're getting away with it because there's not really any clear legal verbiage that's going to stop them from doing this. So that's something they want to do, and they want to continue to do, and they want to they basically want you to pay for Netflix, and they want Netflix to pay for their bandwidth, and they just want to sit back and smoke cigars and eat steak all day. So that's going on. The other thing that Verizon wants to happen is, they would probably all love a tiered internet where they have one little closed walled garden, almost like AOL or CompuServe back in the day. And if you want to get to the real internet, well, that's going to cost you extra. And then if those websites like Tech Syndicate or any other website that gets, I guess, probably bigger than us, and probably more like YouTube and Hulu and stuff, any of those websites, if they want nice, fast access to you, well, they're going to have to pay a premium for it. So that's what they really want. And they cannot do that if they're a common carrier. But now I'm going to give you guys a couple hypothetical situations. Let's say in a couple of years, right, all this stuff happens. Worst case scenario, net neutrality is lost, the ISPs are running wild, and we can't do anything to stop it. So you've got a new company, right? And you got a great idea, and you build a service that's better than YouTube. This is total hypothetical, but it could happen. So you got your service better than YouTube, going to destroy YouTube, and you go to a venture capitalist and you're like, dude, I need a few $1 million. Here's my proof of concept. Here it is working. Look how much better it is. And the VC looks at it and he's like, dude, that is amazing. However, we're not going to be able to compete with the likes of, Google Video or YouTube or Hulu or all these established services that are already there, because they already have enough money to pay all of the ISPs to get a fast pipe right into your house. And that's something that you cannot compete with unless you have a gazillion dollars. So a lot of new innovations are going to be stifled because of that. Let's say you're a gamer, okay? And you like to stream a lot of games on Twitch or YouTube or wherever you stream to. Well, now there could be new premiums associated with that. Things could be throttled. It could really kill a lot of the gaming community. Also, Steam is responsible for a lot of the bandwidth out there. The prices on Steam may have to go up because Steam may end up having to pay all of the ISPs for all the bandwidth that they use. It's a pretty. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that are going to happen. You may end up having to pay extra to Netflix because Netflix is going to transfer the cost of having to pay Verizon and AT&T and Comcast and all these companies. They're going to have to transfer that cost onto you. So that's the worst case scenario.
even more disturbing than that is you get into a situation where, you know, the thing is being built in the public mind is the bandwidth is scarce. And we, as people in the know, people watching this, I assume you're in the know that that's not necessarily true, and that it's misleading to say that. And the AT&T stuff is a great example, because the whole reason that they went away from unlimited data, but they said, was because the bandwidth is scarce. And so if the bandwidth is scarce, why would you offer an incentive to companies to do away with those charges? AT&T actually, there was a court case we mentioned about 5 episodes ago, and there was a guy who sued AT&T because AT&T had a service where you could watch television on your phone, like certain TV shows or certain channels or something, but the guy was streaming his own stuff, and he went over on the data, and the fee from AT&T, I think it was AT&T.
I think it was Bell, actually. It was Bell.
Or Bell, yeah.
Bell.
Was like $5 or $10 a month or something for their TV service. But, you know, it was like $50 or $60 a month for him streaming on his own. Well, he went to court, and the judge, like, they took it completely apart to do an apples-to-apples comparison, and Apple had to disclose what their costs were. And so the guy didn't stream as much data as they estimated for their own TV service. And so the judge was like, all right, well, this guy's just going to pay $5 because data is data, and you can't charge more for this data and less for this other data. And so there can be no more clear route to the jugular to get to the heart of this matter. I mean, that really puts it to bed right there. It is the most blatant dishonesty that you can get. It's in a court case, it's documented, and nothing is happening. The FCC doesn't have the competence or the power to do anything about it, or they haven't done anything about it. So we as citizens have to sort of point out this injustice to get somebody to look at it.
Here's the call to action. Here's the couple things you can do. There's several different petitions out there that you can sign. I'm going to link one in the description. Go and sign one of these petitions. We need to make a lot of noise so that the FCC knows what we want to do. You know, I think the FCC at this point, and I think Tom Wheeler at this point, he likes the idea of pleasing all the big ISPs, but he also likes the idea of taking care of the citizenry. So I see that in him. I see he's kind of torn between the two, because he used to be a lobbyist for, you know, big media, but he also seems to be taking his job somewhat seriously, perhaps more seriously than the previous FCC chair. So that could be something that we could do. The other thing that we could do right now, and this may sound a little silly because a lot of you guys just never think of going to local meetings, but you guys can actually go to local meetings and just find out what's going on in your area and encourage them to create a fund to give to local companies. Usually, local municipalities are not allowed to lay the infrastructure themselves, or maybe they're not allowed to operate their own ISP. That's what it is. But encourage them to put some grants together to give to local companies so that they can run infrastructure, so that you have options besides just Comcast, and the other 9 companies, AT&T, Rogers, whatever. So those are the 2 things I would do. I mean, do you have anything else to add to that? Things we could do to help move this in the right direction, Wendell?
Not really. I mean, writing an actual, real, honest-to-God, non-ranty letter to your Congress critter that is like, hello, my name is so-and-so, I work in the professional industry of whatever, I just wanted to bring your attention to this. I have these credentials and this level of education. This is a wrong position for this reason, and this reason, and make it short and sweet because they don't have a lot of time, and just be like, I hope that you would take this into account when considering your position on the matter. But as a constituent, I expect you to look at this and rationalize it, and you'll get a letter back from them that has, whatever their opinion is. But if you have short, sweet, to the point, and, factual, sort of matter of fact, you may get a response. I mean, writing a letter is good. Don't make it ranty, and, don't be an insane, crazy person. And, it's really unfortunate that we have to devote so much of the show to explaining this, but, like, the coverage out there really wasn't that good. I mean, there was a couple articles, I think, on Ars Technica and a whole bunch of other websites that we use as resources, but they really were glossing over the legal analysis. And
well, they're being very sensational, and they're like, it's really Armageddon. Even Esquire, the headline here is, today a federal appeals court killed free speech on the internet, and that is not. That's such a simple. Number one, it's a simplification, and number two, it's just ridiculously sensational.
Yeah. And there are nuggets of truth there, but it doesn't do anybody any favors by distorting the issue. I mean, you really sort of have to look at it rationally and calmly and sort of be able to say, it's like, well, no, we've considered, and this is bad because.
Yeah,
the judge saying that you've got these alternatives is just not true.
There's definitely things we can do. So anyway, if you guys have any other ideas, feel free to put them in the comments on the website, because that's where the cool comments go. Time to take a word from our sponsors, Squarespace. Now, their sponsorship has really helped us crank out a lot of videos, so thanks very much, Squarespace. If you guys do not need a website, you can skip ahead about a minute and nobody gets hurt. But if you do need a website, check this out. With Squarespace, you can easily put together a site and you can do it really quickly. And that's kind of the key. It's content forward, meaning there's not a lot of bubbly, flashy icons like you see on a lot of the canned template websites. And this one's not exactly just a canned template website. You can go on, pick a template, and then you can even log in with Get Access and change the HTML and CSS. So you can do a lot with this. If you're working for a client, this can especially be helpful because you can get everything set up and then put together their website quickly just based upon the content that they give you. You won't have to worry about messing around a lot with code. You can just get it done and then move on to the next project. And you can also save them time and money. So that's pretty cool. But let me show you what else they've added and something that I've signed up for. There's now Squarespace for musicians. So you can go on, set up your musician account, and you can integrate it with Bandcamp if you like. Buy or share. When you click buy, brings you right up to Bandcamp. If you're not using Bandcamp or you want to be able to more directly sell, there's now Squarespace Commerce. I work with any template whether you're a musician or not. So check that out. It works with Stripe. So anybody who's familiar with Stripe will know that it's good stuff. Last but not least, this can also be handy for the bands or anyone that's touring or just anybody that has events. There's now an events calendar. I like this theme quite a bit. Different themes for it. I have signed up for one of their packages for musicians, so you'll see the new Zweihander album all set up very soon with a new website, and I'll let you know how that's going. So again, thanks to Squarespace, and now back to our regularly scheduled tech. I found this interesting. There's a thing called BitCloud that a bunch of guys are working on, and I want to encourage you guys to go over and take a look at this. What they're aiming to do is create sort of an alternative to the regular internet that's going to be way more secure, and they're creating apps that are going to be replacements for YouTube, Dropbox, Facebook, Spotify, and just basically replacing the ISP in general. And it's going to be an open thing, and right now they're working on some of they're basically structuring it together right now. And you guys can take a look at all the stuff on GitHub, a lot of blanks to fill in, but you guys can go and throw your opinions on this, and the link is, again, just click on the top thing in the description. It'll take you to our website where the link is. And you guys can have a voice in this. So that's kind of a cool thing to see happening. I forgot to mention in Canada, the Rogers really wants a 2-tier internet plan. So if you guys are in Canada, I'm very sorry. But just the thing we mentioned about 2-tier internet plans could be happening soon.
Yeah, they really want it to be a 2-tier system because, he who controls the spice controls the universe, or spice is bandwidth in this case. Hey, and for an extra $10, you can even get techsyndicate.com. Yeah, no, that's exactly how they want it to be because their media is crappy, and you'll take it and you'll like it.
There's no other choices. Speaking of, open, and speaking of, looking for help from the community, Mozilla really wants your help right now to make Firefox more secure, and their really overall goal is to make it safe from the NSA. And their chief technology officer has come out and said, "Hey, give us some help here. Let's do this thing." So that's kind of cool, and that they're looking for help. And other open, well, this is not really an open project, but other projects using Linux, the Black Phone. Now, I really want a Black Phone. Wendell, have you seen the Black Phone?
The Black Phone looks like an amazing project because they've got an A-list of superstars in the security and cryptography sector.
Yeah, let me bring up the team here. All right, who we have? We have Phil Zimmerman. Who's the one that you were mostly excited about?
Phil Zimmerman.
Yeah, Phil Zimmerman.
He's the PGP guy. So if you've heard of PGP, Phil Zimmerman did that. Probably the target of, untold number, enemy of the state kind of guy. Not really, but I mean, yeah, really. And so he's on the team. And the Black Phone is, that level of cryptography and that level of attention to detail in a phone to hopefully defeat sort of infrastructural provider spying and that sort of thing.
So it's going to be based on Android. It won't be exactly Android, but Android's going to be the heart. And they just want a totally secure phone with amazing encryption. So that could be really cool. Keep an eye on that. Let's talk about some hardware and software, shall we?
Yes.
There's an article in Computer World, and I just want to joke around a little bit about this for a minute. Stephen J. Von Nichols is freaking out that Windows 9 is coming out in 2015, saying that he says that Microsoft is rushing it to the market to fix the mess, which is Windows 8, and he's freaking out. And then, guys, I read some of the comments on Computer World, and then I read some of the comments on TechSyndicate.com, and you guys are awesome. I mean, I really don't know who's reading Computer World anymore, but it kind of made me sad. I was like, wow, these guys just don't have any information. Let me break this down for you. Windows 9 should come out in 2015 because about every 3 years since Vista, maybe even before that, I haven't looked back farther than that, every 3 years there's a new version of Windows. So, in 2015, that's going to be 3 years after Windows 8. I don't see what the big deal is. That seems to be a normal thing. Doesn't seem like it's going to be that rushed. Of course, there's a fire lit under their ass right now because they're worried about some of the negative feedback they're getting from Windows 8, but I don't know. It's more sensational journalism, and people are freaking out in the comments as if it's, the word from a higher being. I don't know.
Well, the prior to Microsoft had a shorter release cycle prior to the bog quagmire that was Windows Vista, and then after that they did Windows 7, but then they were kind of off their game with Vista and Windows 8. And so the real thing that he seems to be saying here is that Windows 9 should be a better balance of features desktop users are looking for and the features of Windows 8. And I could see that. Like, Windows 8 and 8.1 did some remarkably dumb things underneath that I really don't understand. Like shadow copy. I'm going to complain about shadow copy every chance I get, because shadow copy on the desktop with a powerful machine is amazing. If you're running it on a Tegra tablet, okay, yeah, maybe shadow copy doesn't make sense. But they took shadow copy out, and they haven't replaced it with a proper backup system. Windows Server backup now is a complete turd. Like, before it wasn't bad. If you knew what you were doing, you could do a bare metal restore, and you could do backup to iSCSI attached storage, and it worked really well. I haven't had to buy a third-party backup solution, and it's been completely fine on hundreds of systems. But now there's not really shadow copy on the desktop, and they fiddled with Windows backup on server, and it's really annoying and it's really dumb, and the price is still exorbitant. So Linux, here we come.
Linux very soon. All right, let's get into some hardware. We have a few AMD things to talk about. Of course, the Kafari chips are out. The new APUs are here. We've got the A10 7850K and the A8 7600 here in this review from Extreme Tech, but there's 3 different chips in total. And looking at the numbers, I don't have one of these chips to test myself, but looking at the numbers and then looking at the price, I'm kind of scratching my head. I really want some of the new technologies. Like, I love True Audio. That was a lot of fun. In fact, that was one of the most interesting experiences that I've had with audio in games. Way better than any of the EAX stuff that I've played with before. It was almost a binaural experience with just 2 speakers, no simulated surround nonsense. It was all being delivered in stereo to my headset that I was playing with at CES. So that was pretty interesting, and I really want that. There's a lot of other things that are being incorporated into these chips, but the price point is the problem. And if you're just getting a gaming rig, and you don't really care about any of the extra technologies, the HSA, if you really don't care about that, it may be cheaper to get a very inexpensive CPU and a dedicated graphics card. In fact, it probably will be, because it's not that much faster than the 6800K, and it's like close to $200, $189 or something. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this stuff?
I don't see this as that big of a deal. This is also architecturally, this is something really interesting here, and that is the chip has the graphics part of it has full access to all of the system RAM. So as we move into a DDR4 platform, and maybe something even at the higher end of the speed on the DDR4 platform, having a full 32 gigabytes of RAM accessible to the GPU with all the GPU cores, with the driver and software updates, this thing could haul. So if that's the case, if the benchmarks and the real world performance bear that out, then it could be well worth the price.
I haven't really seen too many benchmarks against anything that matters. I mean, they've been putting this up against the Intel 4670 and also the previous generation APUs, and a lot of the benchmarks I've been seeing online are canned. I guess we probably should have requested one of these from AMD. I just don't know who to call over at AMD. Just say, like, hey, send us one. So
everybody tweet at AMD. That
yeah,
seems,
again,
actually,
90th
that
time.
gets people's attention. I don't know, when you guys tweet and it's like 1,000 of you. I mean, if we make it really easy and we put a link in the description, I don't think we'll remember to do that. But here's hoping.
Yeah, just
That really does help a ton for some reason.
yeah, just tweet at AMD to talk to Tech Syndicate. That's all. We've never really talked to them, and we could probably, use the contact over there. If you guys were, if someone watching works at AMD, hi.
Whose coffee do we have to spike with some form of alcohol in order to get your attention?
They're also readying a 16-core processor with full Uncore. How about some Uncore on your AMD? So here's what's interesting about this. This is going to be totally new silicon, and it's a 16-core, and it's probably going to be, something that's made just for servers. But if you remember, the 8350 was really supposed to be just a server part. So we may be able to, in the future, see another extreme 16-core FX processor. That would be pretty cool, especially if the price is right. But it's not going to be AM3 Plus. It'll probably be a new socket, which also makes me excited because it's about freaking time they came out with a new chipset and a new socket. It's been quite a while, AMD. And,
well, there aren't yet a lot of desktop workloads that really, really benefit from that many cores. But a unified cache architecture could mean that 2 or 3 or 4 cores could really benefit from having just gobs of cache. I was really surprised that the APU. I mean, I'm not really surprised, but I am a little bit surprised that the APUs don't have a ton of cache. I mean, I know that adds a lot to the price tag of the CPU and contributes to the heat. But I imagine, I don't know from an architectural standpoint, but if the APU had a ton of cache, if the architecture benefits from having that much cache, an APU would probably just scream.
Yeah, they probably weren't able to do it with all the other things that are going on inside the chip without it melting. That's probably the main reason. All right, let's talk about games. This week, Valve had their developers thing, whatever it was, and one of the biggest things everyone's talking about is everyone's asking for an AMA from Gabe Newell on Reddit. And he came out and said, you know what, if we raise $500,000 in donations to the hospital, that's they've got a racing team and they're raising money for a hospital. He said if they raise $500,000 in donations, that he'll do an AMA. So that's pretty much a guarantee that the hospital is going to get $500,000 in donations because everyone wants to ask Gabe Newell a million questions. So,
he answered a few questions in that thread. I was surprised.
Yeah, he's been kind of active here. Interesting. He even took a selfie, and that's been all over the internet. Why is everybody so excited? And yeah, it's pretty much religious at this point. So let's talk about what's going on with Steam. We'll talk about some of the announcements from the conference, I forgot what's the thing called, the Valve Developers Only Conference or something like that. I'm gonna have to look it up right now. Dev Days. Developers Only. It's Dev Days in Seattle. So the in-home streaming is starting right now. The Steam boxes came out. There's a bunch of different companies making Steam boxes. I like the fact that they're sort of emphasizing open. Everything's going to be open. They want to open up the hardware. Anybody can make their own iteration on the hardware. They're also going to open up the design of the well, not really open up, but they're also going to allow other hardware manufacturers and vendors to create their own versions of the Steam controller. So that's kind of cool. And they've even got their own update to the Steam controller. They've changed the buttons around a little bit from even the one that we played with at CES. But right now the problem with the Steam boxes is that only a few games, or only a small handful of games, support Linux. There's some pretty good games on Linux though. And to get around that, now in the latest version of the Steam OS, they've enabled full streaming from a master computer. So if you have another computer in the house, you can play any game as long as that's like a Windows machine, and it'll just stream to your Steam box in the living room. One thing I think is kind of interesting about this is sometimes people are like, hey man, who cares about the living room? And Gabe Newell has said he's not trying to force anybody to go into the living room. If you want to play on your PC, just play on your PC. If you like big picture mode, just put it in big picture mode and sit back. That's not about this at all. It's just about allowing people to go into the living room if they want to. So he's not trying to move gaming into the living room at all. So that's kind of cool. What else happened at Steam Dev Days? They're adding support for 12 new currencies in the next year. There's a new controller. There's a picture of it we mentioned. let's see. Oh yeah, Gabe Newell also says that he wants to make Greenlight go away. And this is a little bit more complicated than the headline suggests. Just making it go away is not exactly what he wants to do, but he really wants to open up the Steam platform, and he wants the developers to have more control over their own marketing. Because right now the developer comes and X number of dollars are exchanged back and forth from, I mean, nobody knows exactly the number is. But by and large, Steam is the one who's putting up the banners on their website and putting things in the right order. And I think, and this is not exactly official, but over the last year I've pieced together things that Gabe Newell's been saying. I think what he wants is he wants Steam to be a more open and modular platform so that the developers can create their own storefronts. So if you have a Greenlight project, you can create your own thing inside Steam, or maybe take a version of Steam and make it your own platform, just using it as the backend. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but that would give the individual developers a lot more control over their own platform and over their own marketing and over their own release schedule and all that sort of thing. I don't know. I think that's kind of where he's going. What do you think, Wendell?
App Store. He is totally going App Store. Greenlight shouldn't be a thing that requires the level of curation and staff time and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Valve hires another company or creates a spin-off company or something to deal with whatever Greenlight becomes, because Greenlight will become the sort of online app store for games. And that's really what he wants. And that's fine. I think that's good for developers.
Yeah, it could be really good for developers. 75 million users. Wow.
There's a lot of users.
Yep. So, yeah, that's what's going on with... we got a new video up. Let's put that online. So that's what's going on with Steam. Don't have a lot of extra video game news just at this moment. There's a few cool things on Kickstarter, but the video's going long. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and talk to Josh from Fractal. Have him on the show today, even though we recorded this last week. So here's the interview from last week. What's been going on since the last time you came and had breakfast in Kentucky?
Had awkward breakfast in Kentucky?
Yeah.
At that wonderful place that you recommended that you never stayed at?
Why would I stay there? I live beside it.
I don't care where you park your car. As far as what's been going on, a lot, really. New products have been coming out, been traveling a lot.
Let's talk about your new product. We shot a bunch of footage on that when the sun was up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be on the screen right now instead of us. But what are we looking at that's on the screen?
Basically looking at the Define R4 Blackout. What it is it's a Define R4 that has an all-black interior. The reason we did that is basic customer demand. We've gotten a lot of feedback from our fans that they wanted to see a black interior version of the Define R4. And while we can't accommodate every single request, when we do see an overwhelming demand, then that's what we want to answer. And we're basically showing that with the Define R4 Blackout that we do listen to our fans.
Now, what's going to be going on with this case? Because you made me sign this thing, right? It was kind of weird. I've never signed anything before.
I was trying to steal your identity.
I knew it. I knew it.
Because I want the NSA following me, is what I really want.
Did Linus sign that thing too? My good, he didn't do it?
No, I had to put it on the floor so he could reach it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, well, right now you've got the contest going on. Not really the contest, but you're looking for feedback from the community, and you're giving away some cases. So how's that going?
It's actually going really well. So to kind of give you a little bit of background, what we wanted to do was reach out. We get different levels of reviews, right? There's reviews where people buy the case or buy our products on Newegg or NCIX or wherever. And then there's also, I guess what you call professional reviews, like the Tech, or Tech Syndicate.
Professional?
That's professional. And then what we really wanted to get was also, I guess what you call it, consumer reviews. Basically get the products out to a bunch of different people, have them, build a system in it, try it out, and really let us know what they think. And it's not looking for a glowing review, not trying to get an overly positive review. We just want to make sure we have an honest review, because it's what we take back into when we, design new cases and we advance our product. Is we really want to take that feedback, what people liked, what they didn't like, what we could do better, what we did well, all of that stuff.
So is that going to be like, help put together your future roadmap with Fractal?
Yeah, it always weighs in. I mean, we can't, like I said, I guess the way I like to phrase it is, we definitely listen to our customers. We're not necessarily dictated by them. We do need to keep our own design philosophies. That's why we do what we do, and our fans really seem to like it. So we definitely want the input, though. I mean, we design the cases for them. We design the power supplies for them. So we want to make sure we're giving them what they want.
What other new products can we expect from Fractal? Is it more cases, more power supplies, or is there anything else you guys are going to be getting into?
Anybody that's seen me in the video knows what I'm going to say. I'm not allowed to comment on products that may or may not be in development, blah, blah, blah.
I'm going to have to drive to Sweden to find out, right?
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
The James Bond Aqua car, but it's all good. No, we do have stuff coming out. As far as CES goes, you know, there were probably some products maybe that we could have pulled ahead to show at the show, but what we don't want to do is kind of set this cycle of showing a product and then, you know, possibly there's delays and it takes months until people get it. So we've been working very hard to make sure the stuff is flawless when we show it.
All right. Did you get to take a look at CES? Look around at all? Get into the show?
I was so busy this whole week. I mean, I had a ton of meetings, so no, I didn't make it to the show floor. So the odd thing is, I'm here in Vegas at CES, and I'm going to see it the way everybody else does at home. I'm going to watch your videos, maybe watch Linus's videos, Austin's videos.
You said maybe watch Linus's videos?
Maybe watch Linus's videos.
Linus doesn't watch our videos. He wouldn't know this.
Yeah, but somebody will tell him that watches your channel, and then he'll send me a text message. It's rather naughty, and it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had another question now, but
I just blew your mind?
It just blew my mind.
It happens a lot.
I'm not sure where I wanted to go next. Oh, yeah, I got something. Here's the last question. All right. So what's the most ridiculous or craziest thing that's happened in Vegas that you can talk about?
Talk about?
Yeah. Or what's the most fun thing that happened? Could be
I can't talk
anything.
About that. No. Okay, I guess what I would actually have to say was the most awesome thing was breakfast. When it was Dave Kane, you, Linus, Paul, Kyle, that short little guy from Newegg, Kitty Mock, the guys from NCIX, everybody sitting at a breakfast table at like 2 o'clock. Yeah, Joanne. And basically everybody's sitting at a breakfast table at 3 o'clock in the morning after a industry event. And basically just watching everybody talk and interact. Yeah, exactly.
Basketball lessons.
Yeah, he's schooled. He definitely schooled. He's dropping them from the three-point line and beyond.
I'm gonna move to Vegas.
I think it was a skinny jeans.
And it's just gonna be like $20 on the floor and 3-point contests.
Just walk around.
I'm gonna move here, yeah. Who's next? From Kentucky.
Bring it. I thought it was good. What'd you think? What's your favorite thing aside from getting to talk to me? So your second favorite thing at CES?
I don't have any idea. The beer last night, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Had some beets.
I took you to the right place, right?
Yeah, had some delicious beets this afternoon. That's literally like the highlight of my day right now. I was like, I keep thinking back, damn, those beets were delicious. Roasted perfectly.
Culinary dropout, in case anybody's wondering.
That's enough of this video. All right, man. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, there is our this is our second take. I don't know if I like the first or second take better. I guess we'll have to never know. Because
the second take had a random rant about it's like some guy. It's like you just tuned to this channel and there's some random guy behind monitors telling you about some legal court case. What the hell is going on? This doesn't even make any sense.
I kind of wish that this was a live show. That way people could tune in halfway through and try to figure out what the hell's going on. That's kind of fun for some reason.
I don't even know what's happening. This confuses and scares me. I'm going to turn it off.
Anyway, all right, so that's it. Thanks to all the subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should subscribe, because if I were you, I would probably subscribe, because I don't even know.
No, we're not awesome. We're just people.
Yeah, we're just regular people.
We don't even know what we're doing. We just talk. Come on. just another set of talking heads. That's all we are.
Well, I'm a talking head. You're talking eyes?
I'm talking eyes. But the monitor is so big and I need it for my notes.
Must have. All right, guys, we will see you next week.